Excellent. Good stuff. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Anyone else want to share?
I think it helped me with more with time management. You can do a lot of things without being in one place, and because driving to places just to meet with people, sometimes it just takes too much of a time. Just by what we're doing already, it takes a lot of time, and by doing this, it has basically cut a lot of the tedious of going places to meet with people.
Okay, good. That makes sense. All right. Anything else? Anyone else? No? We're done with that idea?
What was your question, Neil?
Who's on first?
Abbott.
The question was, for those of you that have been on this, some of you have been on this virtual office for a couple of years and some of you for a couple of weeks. But I was just trying to get a feel for the individual take on this, on how that's positively affected you. And has it? You know, I mean, my psychobabble is that it works, but I don't know.
The virtual office?
Yes, correct.
Works better than EXPs.
Well, I'm not looking, thank you, but I mean, what is it that works for you, Jake, in this? Let's just talk about the virtual office itself, not the different offices, okay? The virtual office works for you because?
Well, in the cloud, I know we're not comparing offices, but in the cloud, people were able to see each other as avatars.
Okay.
On Neil's virtual office, people can see each other for real, and it has all the advantages of the cloud, but more personal, more of a connection.
It's interesting. It's interesting. That's an interesting point. Thank you. Okay, good. Anyone else have anything else they want to share?
I want to share, but I'm really on hold right now. I'll come back to you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, got it.
What is your question, Neil?
My question is, how has your experience been through using the virtual office, in your case, really for the last 2.5 years, Josie? I think you came on day one.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, how has that helped you? How has that hurt you?
Well, I definitely like it. I like what Jake says, seeing other people. We, for 2 years, we couldn't go to the office. And I was remembering that. I'm going to the office 2 days a week now. And I'm enjoying the interaction with other people there because it's, it's different kind of energy.
Right.
But I really appreciate the Zoom office. I do listen in sometimes with listening to other people make their calls. I get ideas of who I should call or what I should say. The role play, you're right, for 2.5 years, I've been consistent in the role plays. And I'm, as a result of one of the speakers, or several of the speakers, I would say for 3 or 4 months now, I've increased my role play every day to another hour.
Wow.
So I'm doing 2 hours or 2.5 hours a day now.
How is that affected you?
Makes me more confident.
Okay.
So I think it's a great thing. I like it.
The virtual office.
The virtual office.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
And the reason I'm going back to the office is because I feel like I should. And so, you know, of course, I want to get something out of it, and getting something out of it is being with other people around there.
Right.
But I would just be happy here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I kind of feel the same way, but you know, I'm going into the office once or twice a week just because people say I should.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else.
Yeah.
I have a very good feeling about this whole virtual thing, but I'm spending what, 6 or 8 hours a day on this one way or another, either standing or talking and meeting people and having meetings, and it's pretty interesting stuff. Anyone else have any comments on this virtual office stuff?
So Neil, you're like me. I'm a little schizophrenic, and Josie, I like both. I like both the Zoom and being in the office. So, for example, today you're in an office, I'm in an office, but I like being on the Zoom. And I'm surprised there aren't 1,000 people on here.
Right.
I really am.
Right. Yeah.
In addition to that, Neil, you've attracted people from all over Northern California, the United States and Canada, which have added to our office meetings.
Yes, that is true. That is definitely true. Okay, good. All right. Well, I appreciate the input. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to, is there any wins from anyone today that wanted to share anything before I get into what I want to talk about?
I took a listing yesterday.
I like that. Good job. Good job, Josie. Past client, Sphere.
Past client, I sold a house to her 33 years ago.
Wow. So she's right in line with that group of people that stay in a single family home for more than 23, 24 years, huh?
Yeah.
Is that typical for your owners, that length of time?
Yes. I've seen it more than ever now. All these old people don't want to leave, even if they can't climb the stairs.
Right. That's interesting. Are you working Fountain Valley or is it Garden Grove?
No, I work
Huntington Beach?
Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley. This listing is in Long Beach that I sold it to her. I just took another listing in Fountain Valley, and I'm really watching the market, the prices, days on market, and that kind of thing. I'm going to talk to you about some of that later, but it's still very strong here.
For sure. Absolutely. I think looking at the numbers is really, really important. If you have a digital business card, would you put a 1 in the chat box for me? Three people? 4? Oh, okay. I just got my digital business card, and it's a little bit more difficult, at least for me, to send it. Are you guys finding that, or is it just me?
Yes. It's having to find it, first of all.
Having to find it. That's the issue, huh? Yeah.
And then second is figuring out how to send
I
it.
could share with you.
Ernie, Ernie, you're breaking up, but it sounds like you have something important to say.
Yeah. I was trying to
Nah, you're still breaking up.
what I did was I saved it to my,
Ernie, why don't you sign back in? Go out and sign back in. Try that. Okay, while Ernie's doing that, so not a lot of people have this digital business card. That's interesting. Excuse me. Huh. Okay, well, we'll see. I think it's, I was in a situation yesterday where I needed it, or it would have been handy and I didn't have it. So I put it together today and now I have it. So I want to talk about a couple of things and we'll come back to Ernie and his comments in a little bit. I want to talk, look, let me ask question number one. Is the market changing in your area? Yes or no? Right. Okay, everybody can say the same thing. The lenders are seeing it. Hey, the building industry, I just noticed that the prices are coming down on lumber. Do you guys see that? Interesting, huh? Yeah, I go to remodel my kitchen and the prices are going through the roof and now the prices are coming down and all of a sudden the contractors who didn't want to talk to me, 3 months ago are calling us back right now saying, hey, did you want to do that kitchen now? So the market is changing. Things are happening. So just kind of be aware of that. And what I wanted to talk about today, the first thing I wanted to go over is the difference in the market in terms of getting a listing. When you got a listing, let's say 3 or 4 months ago, the odds of that property going into escrow within a week or two were pretty high, yes or no?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe even a week. You'd actually hold it off the market, get it in the position you wanted to get it into, and then put it on the market. So the client saw activity right away. You were closing for the business, and then all of a sudden you took a break and you got the listing, you got it in the MLS after a few days, etc. And what I want to make everyone cautious of right now is clients, our sellers, still think that's happening. And in, of course, some cases and in some price ranges, it is. However, you need to pre-frame your sellers and make sure they understand what's going on. And it's all about communication. I may lose my voice right now. Let's see what happens. So,
Neil,
yeah.
one of my role play partners has a script that her coach gave her on preparing people for the changing market. Maybe that's something I'm sure you're going to come up with.
Well, or why don't you send me a copy of what they're working on and we can do that.
I'll send it.
What I wanted to talk about right here, right now, was you get the listing, you've been working really hard on it. And you've been closing to get the signature. You got the signature and you go to put the property on the market. You set up to get the pictures, you set up to make sure the sign gets installed, you get it into the MLS so you can do what needs to be done. Maybe you do some work on it. But sometimes we don't communicate all that's going on to the seller, and the sellers, in their mind over the last 2 years, they were thinking their house is going to go on the market. They're going to get an offer for $50,000 to $100,000 more than they're asking. and they're going to sell it and close escrow, and they're in the driver's seat. Everybody with me on this one?
Yes.
Okay, that's changing. So we need to have, so I want to set this up. We were doing this a few years ago, and then we kind of put it on the shelf for a while because we didn't need it. I believe that we need it now, so I'm bringing it out. So you got the listing. You have to keep communicating. And there also, the work that you do in the beginning is also the work that you're going to need for getting price reductions. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to need price reductions. It's coming. Okay? May even be here in some cases. You know, I haven't looked in the MLS in the last couple of weeks, but I was told that instead of the closings all being the green arrows going up, that a lot of them are the red arrows pointing down. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In the area.
Okay, so here's a suggestion. People are very visual. Most people are very visual. Make a copy of one or two of those pages. Keep it with you. So when the client keeps pushing back, the prices are still rising, the prices are still rising, the prices are still rising, you can bring out a copy. I know, I've had this many, many times. I know that a lot of sellers think that, but here's a page out of the MLS. Here it is right here. And there's a copy. And here you ask a question. Are the arrows pointing up or the arrows pointing down? And they're going to tell you what. Most of the arrows are. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Or here's the scenario I wrote out, and we'll send you a copy of this, or we'll have Jesse post it in a little bit. We get a listing. We're excited to get the sales commission, and the client is excited to get their home sold. Where we sometimes drop the ball is where we don't communicate with the seller within a week or two of signing the listing contract. Now, we know there's a lot of work to be done to put the house on the MLS, the advertising, but the clients don't know that. When they don't hear from you, they get frustrated and start asking us to do things like hold open houses and advertise in their favorite newspapers. If they do not feel if they do not feel they're being communicated with in these conversations, then the relationship starts to become more difficult, especially when you get to a point where you're asking for a price reduction. So I wrote out a plan of how to keep your client happy. Take notes. Okay? We used to say in our house, happy wife, happy life. Now it's happy client, happy life.
Yes.
Right? Right, Anna?
Yes.
All right, good job. All right, here's what I suggest you do. When you take the listing, you immediately pre-address 5 or 6 envelopes to the seller. You're going to use those to send your client information, the things that you're doing, to them on a regular basis. This is part of the communication. All right. So you're going to get the listing. You're going to input it in the MLS. You're going to print it out. You're going to review it for accuracy. Everybody does that, right? And you're going to make any changes that are needed. You're going to make 2 copies of each listing. You're going to fold one up, put it in the envelope, and send the one copy to the client. You're going to put the other copy in a file, and that file is going to be used for everything you do on that listing, every activity, all your phone calls, every note, everything you do is going to go into that file. We'll talk about what we're going to do with that file later on. Okay? You send a copy of the completed MLS to the client. You email the client link of the MLS. So now they get a letter from you with a copy of the MLS, what the information that was the printout, and they get a link that's emailed to them. They get 2 touches right away. You call them when the sign is going up. You call them after you think the sign has been up and ask them, did the sign get put up? We're missing touches. We're missing these opportunities. Now, we didn't have to do this before because properties were flying off the shelves like crazy. But we will have to do this now. And the agents that get this fast are going to get and keep clients. Let me share something with you right now. There will be clients calling us and telling us, Cindy and I, they want to fire you. Okay? This happens all the time in these markets. The client's going to call and say, I wanted this, I expected this, et cetera, I didn't get it, or I'm not getting communicated with, or they didn't do this, and this, and I want that agent fired. You guys with me on this? This happens in this market.
Yes.
Okay, this will happen in this market. Our job is to forewarn you right now, this is coming. Let's do something about it. Okay? Questions on anything I covered so far? Okay. 3 to 5 days after you've taken the listing should start to be populated in websites. C21 Masters, C21.com, Trillia, Zillow, Redfin, et cetera. Okay. Now, one of the services that our office company offers is if you will send the listing through to Cindy, because she needs to see it anyway, but not everybody does this. But if you will do that, then our thank you for that is we will go and look up 10, 12, 20 different websites and create and copy and paste those links for you and send it to you so then you can fold that up and send it to your clients. Okay, so now you're going to have 15 to 20 links of where your property is out there on the MLS. Now, I want to make a suggestion. Before you send that letter, we think we've done a really great job with it. But before you send that letter, I suggest you check and make sure that the information that, because remember, everything starts with your information in the MLS. And then it gets aggregated out there into the internet. So everything's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it comes in different formats. So sometimes it's not accurate. So do yourselves a favor, as many of the websites as you can, double check to make sure the information is accurate. If it's not, work on getting it fixed and let the client know there's a problem out there, because their friend is going to be looking on XYZ website, and they're going to call them and say, I didn't know your house was a 3-bedroom. I thought it was 4-bedroom and a den, but it says on XYZ website, you know, the friendly neighbors that we all love, okay, the ones that are causing you some aggravation. So check it out, take a look. You want to print every single one of those out that you can. You want to mail them 2 or 3 a day to the client, 4 or 5 a day, whatever you want to send. And you want to put those copies in the folder. We're going to use this stuff in a minute, okay? Print the listings out, check for accuracy, make any changes that are necessary, make 2 copies of each of the websites, send 1 to the client, and then put one in your file. And then if you want to, you can send one link at a time. We suggest just sending the 15 or 20 of them. Okay, and that, by the way, that's a service that we provide for you.
May I have a question?
Of course, Anna.
So, so you said that we have a listing, like we need a promotion because they're special. So we need to put this listings links sent to Cindy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what they're saying, Cindy, that make that listing so different?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So the question is, actually, we just say the truth. Just like I said, when you put on MLS, immediately you close, they're already into the other website for Zillow.
Well, it doesn't go, so that is a misnomer right there. It generally takes, the fastest is probably about a half a day. But there are websites that go 24 hours to 36 hours, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you tell them that they're going to start populating pretty quickly, but that it may be a few days before it gets on all the websites. Now, what I'm talking about with Cindy is that if you send her the contract, we do this work for you. We go and pull the links and send them to you.
Okay, that's great, because that reminded me, I worked with before with Century 21 King, and if we do open house, we have to give reception, say that, okay, so we are going to open house by Saturday, Sunday. So usually they're put it again to their when we open house, we have a lot of showings. But I work with relative my associate because they did not charge your money, so they did not do anything. I experienced this open house usually if did not have a lot of people. So that means so when I get listed, I should send it to link to Cindy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's why I
Yeah.
I wanted to come. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, perfect. And then any advertisements that you may be doing, advertisements today, we're not doing a lot of. The ads today are really the internet. And by the way, Century 21 has a system, I'm sure other companies have it too. We call ours golden parachute?
Ruler.
Golden ruler. I was going to say golden arches. Golden ruler, thank you. Where basically every person that shows up at your website list, the listing for your website gets counted, okay, and where they came from. This is really important. It doesn't seem like it. However, the clients used to, you would run ads on their house and you'd say, hey, we had 27 ad calls on your property this weekend. We had 4 agents show it. Blah, blah, blah. That's the activity that's going on. Well, in the internet world, in the digital world, you could have 4,000 views. But if you don't know how to read the documents, you can't go to the client and say, look, we got 4,000 views. We got 800 views. We got 20 views, whatever it is. So you got to use that material and get it to the client. Now there's in our system for Golden Ruler, it's set up where once a week you can send that information automatically to the client. I don't recommend you do that. I recommend you get the information, read and review it, send it on to the client in the mail, and you could send a digital copy also, and then make sure you make copies and put it in your folder. So now your folder on that property is starting to build up. You have the listing agreement, you have any postcards that you sent out, you have any door knocking things, I would put in there some sheets, remember, you're telling them that you're making 200 phone calls around the property. How do you quantify that for the client? You just tell them you did it, or you take your sheets of paper and check mark it off and say, look, this is what I did Monday through Friday, and this is how many people I talked to. Put these sheets in there, make copies of your work, okay? Show them what you do. They have no clue what you're doing, okay? So show them, use your number sheets. Again, we haven't had to do this in the past couple of years, probably since about March of 2020, April of 2020, we haven't had to do this, but we have to do it now. And as the inventory's changing, as the market's changing, as demand is falling off, we have to communicate at a higher level. I'm going to read something to you guys right now. August sent this to me earlier today. I thought it was really cool. So this is an article, and it starts off kind of with a baseball metaphor, unexpected slump in demand. And it was dated May 2022. In 2002, the Los Angeles Angels won the World Series for the first time in franchise history. The next year, they missed the playoffs completely and finished the season with a losing record. The real estate market is amid a similar slump in the middle of the spring market, following the best year for real estate as a whole since 2005. The primary culprit, the increase in mortgage rates. According to the Mortgage Daily News, 30-year mortgage rates have risen from 3.27 in December to 5.5 today, a climb of more than 2.25% in a very short period of time. How should you adjust your home buying or home selling strategy in this changing market? So they start talking about a few points, and they say, historically speaking, buyer demand peaks from end of April to end of May. This year, buyer demand peaked at the end of March. Did you guys hear me? Buyer demand peaked at the end of March and has been slowly declining ever since. In fact, buyer demand is down 23% compared to last year. But keep in mind, the market as a whole is whole since 2005 due to extremely favorable interest rates. The good news, inventory is up 17%. I'm not sure that's good news when you finish the rest of it. If you've been an aspiring home buyer within the last 24 months, this is a great time for you. You've been in a bidding war. So the bottom line, and you guys can have a copy of this if you want later. The bottom line, inventory will continue to grow on the backs of homes that will not sell. Homes in inferior locations need to be priced accordingly to their flaws. Homes in poor condition must be adjust their prices accordingly. And sellers who overprice their homes will sit on the market until they adjust the fair market value. This is a great article for you to show to your sellers right now. But remember, they're not going to believe this because in their mind, they're still thinking 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months ago. So we have to constantly be having a conversation with them. And what's probably going to happen is we're going to need to get some price reduction. So here's what the strategy is. When you go to a client and you say, I want to talk about a price reduction, generally speaking, what is their first response to you? Well, no. Tyrone says no. Yeah, could be no, but generally, you're going to get the seller saying, well, what have you done to market the house? I haven't seen any marketing. You just put a sign in front of the house and then you go away. We're not talking to you. We don't know what you're doing. Okay, you guys with me on this?
Yes.
Now, you may not have experienced this in large part because you haven't been in the real estate business long enough to experience it. I've been through 6 recessions. Okay, I get this. I know what the questions are going to be before they ask them, they send them out. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to be doing this yesterday with all of your listings, with all of your clients. We've talked about this a few times over the last few years, but I wanted to bring it back out now and get it in your face. All right. So here's how you get a price reduction. You ask for price, getting a price reduction is equal to or greater than getting the original listing, and that's phenomenal. But don't fool around with the price reduction, because done correctly, you will now have a saleable system, a listing, instead of a listing that's going to expire on you. So what you need to do is I believe you need to meet with the client in person. Okay? It's just as important as a listing appointment. So where you can, when you can, meet with the client in person. You have to be having regular updates with the client every week or two anyway, sharing what's going on in the market and how many properties are selling, so this doesn't come as a surprise. When you walk into the house, you meet the client and you have to ask him this series of questions in this order. Since we took the listing, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, has there been anything positive or negative in your life that has caused you some anxiousness on either having to make the move more imminent or maybe not have to make the move at all? What am I talking about? Well, let's say when they listed the house, they were thinking they might run into a situation where the job is going to be phased out, but they weren't sure. They listed the house smartly in anticipation of this. You're meeting with them let's say 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and they're saying, well, yeah, Johnny got laid off. Okay, all right, that's important. So do you have a plan B? Is there a job that you can do? Yes, no, whatever's going on. So you got to know that, because you don't even have to have much of a conversation. Johnny got laid off. They need to drop the house $100,000. Let's get going. End of the meeting. All right. Or it could go a completely different way. About 2 weeks after we met with you, first of all, we were nervous because we were concerned that Johnny was going to lose his job. But 2 weeks after we met with you, our great grandmother Clara had passed away and left us enough money to pay off the mortgage. Interesting. Why didn't you tell me? Well, you were working so hard on selling the house that we didn't want to upset you. Okay, this stuff happens all the time. So you have to have these communications, but that's your first question. What's happened? What's gone on? Second question, let's talk about your motivation. All right. So do you still have to move to Chicago? Is this still a business move? So you go right back through the motivating questions that you asked originally. Okay. If you don't sell this house, what are you going to do with it, et cetera, et cetera. Do you owe more on the house? Do you owe less on the house? By the way, I don't know, probably nobody on here has ever run into this, but if somebody gets hit with a DUI, under intoxication? Driving under intoxication, that's what it is, DUI, that the bond could be $50,000 to $100,000. And they have to take the money out of their house to do that. So now the equity in the house has been decreased. You guys get what I'm saying? Okay. So you got to find out. You got to ask questions. You got to know what's going on. Now, so you don't want to say reduce your price by 50,000 or 100,000. By the way, let me back up just 1 second. go for a big price reduction, everybody. The first price reduction is very difficult. The second one almost never happens. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if they're only going to give you $10,000 and you need $35,000, tell them to hold on to the 10. We're not going to make any price reductions right now. Just sit with it. And let's see what we can do. Why not? Because $10,000 isn't going to do it. We need 25 or 30,000 or 40,000. What we find, rule of thumb, is that if a property's getting shown, but it's not getting offers, it's about 5% overpriced. Everybody with me?
Yes.
If it's being shown, but not offers, it's about 5% overpriced. If it's not getting shown, it's at least 10% overpriced.
Yes.
Rule of thumb, okay? Not in concrete, but definitely a rule of thumb. Questions on what we covered so far?
No.
All right, everybody's got that. Good. Okay, now before you show the comps and suggest a price reduction, you go and get the folder you've been keeping with all the things you've done, and you go open it, because I don't care if you've been sending them stuff and talking to them every week. We did this, 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 we did that, we did this, we did that. They forgot because you're taking money away from them. So you have to go through that folder. Okay, this is the listing agreement. These are the websites we have it on. This is some marketing that we did. These are the door knockings that I do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you just keep building on that pile that you did, because they need to see you're doing something. Otherwise, what are they going to ask again when you get ready for the price? Give them a price and ask them to reduce it. What did you do for me? Get it? So now we've covered that. Now you show them the comps, the new information, and you throw out a price. Again, bigger than you want. Bigger than you want. Let them, oh my God, you really want $75,000? Well, that would really make this move fast. Okay, how fast do you need to move? Well, I don't want to go down 75,000. Okay, what do you want to go down? Well, can we get away with 65,000? Well, 75 is better, but would you take 65? Of course. But don't take 5,000. Don't take 10,000. Don't do it. Okay? It's not going to make a change in anything. All right, questions on anything I covered?
So in other words, this is just, you're trying to validate and show the proof and documentation of all of the 21 steps of your action plan that you actually did. So like you said, when you go back and you're sitting down with them, that's going to be a very awkward conversation, and you trying to get a price reduction and keeping that emotion down at that
And
moment.
you haven't done your job. That's really the key, is that you haven't done what you said you're going to do. And you have no, and if you did do what you say you're going to do, but you have no way of proving it, it's like you didn't do it. You guys get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Have you ever been in a situation where you asked for something to be done? A kid, family, parents, something. They did the work, but they never told you it was done. And you get madder and madder and madder at that person. And then you go to them and say, how come you didn't do blah, blah, blah? Well, I did. Here it is right here. Well, why didn't you tell me? I don't know. You get it?
This is so true. And I'll tell you, Neil, man, I really, really appreciate all this information and this knowledge that you're putting out, because from my experience in the past, when I dropped the ball so many times, if I had done all of these things now that you're talking about, the emotion and the sellers and buyers getting mad at me would have been reduced so much. And I didn't think about that, because we're thinking of, hurry up, get the sale, making them happy. No, you got to prove that you're doing what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, the emotions tend to take off, and now you've got angry sellers and buyers. And I know you mentioned earlier that you were asking folks for, what about this whole format was nice. And I tell you, for me, being able to hear all of these other agents and how they prospect and how to speak and what to speak, and going to Mike Ferry and listening to all the things that Mike write down. I'm telling you, from all of the pain that I went through before, I wish someone had have explained this to me much sooner. But as they say, better late than never. So now I'm learning. I'll just keep at it.
Right.
So
right.
I, for one, definitely appreciate it, and you and what you do. And I've been here for 5 months, and I'm already now on number 3 transaction. When last year, I pretty much just struggled. It was a whole big, nothing.
Tyrone, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I want to make my point. Last year was, in real estate, the single biggest year that we've had since 2005. And some people didn't do well. Okay. And here we are in 2022, in a year that isn't quite as good as 21. And a lot of you are kicking royal tush. So congratulations to you. And it's because of the systems. It's because of the things that you do. I've got something I want to throw at you. It's going to take us about 15 minutes long. If you got to go, you got to go. But whoever signed up for 1 o'clock got really lucky. I wrote down here, as parents, we want the best for our kids. We want the best education. We want the best jobs. We try to help by giving advice, suggestions, directions. We've been there. We've lived the life. And we know some of the things that work and some of the things that don't. When your kids ask you for advice, when they seek your counsel, when they want your guidance and you give it to them and they ignore it, or they don't do it, or they think, what the heck do they know? How's that make you feel? Crummy, right? For those of us that are parents. Are you happy with them? Are you frustrated? Well, I'm not your parent. Robert's not your parent. Cindy's not your parent. Miriam's not your parent. Okay? I'm not your dad. However, you've come to us because we know what we're doing, and we've helped many before you. And maybe you think at some level, wow, maybe this program can help me too. So we line out a program. We give you what to do. We do it in great detail. And we follow up to encourage you and lead you. And yet some people don't do it. Question: how much of what we do, don't answer this, just write it down as a percentage. How much of what we suggest, line out, do you do that we've given you information? Put a number down, 30%, 40%, 12%, 1%. And then my next question is why? Because I want to do a little reality check, all right? To make sure you know what is expected of you in life. Because here's the deal. Not everyone really knows what is expected of you in life, from your family, your kids. Now, sometimes you see it when you get to 70, 80, 90, 100 years old, and you look back and say, whoa, wish I had done that. Wish I could have done that. So let's talk about reality checks. Write these questions down real fast. Do you own a home? What drives me crazy is that I see agents in real estate that don't own a home. Does the home have equity? Because it's not enough just to own a home. Do you have life insurance? If you died tomorrow, how would your family survive? Who would take care of your kids? Now, I want to share this thought with you. If you have some insurance, is it enough? And here's why I ask. $1 million worth of life insurance put in the bank after you die will throw off somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a year. Hear me, $30,000 to $40,000 a year. So if you're the breadwinner and you make $200,000 a year to bring home for your family to live, so you need, let's say at 4%, you need $8 million worth of life insurance. Now I get life insurance is expensive, but if you make $200,000 a year, that's what you need so that your family has that money. I said this once to a guy, I shared with him, if you don't take care of this and you're 35, 40 years old and you pass away at 45, 50 years old and your kids are just coming out of college, or maybe they're just going into college and maybe you put money away for college or you didn't put money away. Remember, every time you write a check for college, your insurance policy that you got the cash starts to shrink. So if you had 8 million the first year and you spent $100,000, now you have 7,900,000. So you're only getting 4% on that. And that drops the next year, and then that drops the next year, and then that drops the next year, and then that drops the next year. You know, you got to have a car and you got to have all these things. Are you putting your family at risk? And when I had this conversation with this guy, he was kind of young and he had kids, and I said, you know, you're really concerned about your family and your children. I said, your wife's going to have to marry some guy to take care of your 3 kids so that they have health insurance. Is that where your life is? That's what I was talking to this guy about. Well, where is it? You know, the truth is, I know a number of women that have had to be put into that situation because they're not taking care of it. Why do I bring this up? Not to make you depressed, to make you understand that just because you're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, it might not be enough. Get off your tush and go do what you're capable of doing so that you can live the life and provide for your family what you need to provide. So, question, how much, oh, wrong one. Do you have health insurance? I can't believe how many people in the country don't have health insurance. How about this one? Do you have long-term care insurance? When you get old, how are you going to be taken care of? And is it going to wipe out the money that you do have? How much will it cost you to send each kid to college? How many kids do you have? Do the calculations. It's $50,000 a kid, and it's rising every second. Every second it's right. You know, the thing that blew me away the most during COVID is that you had to pay the same money to go to college as if you showed up and went to class. Did you guys know that? That blew me away. So it was on Zoom just like this, and they were getting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for insurance. I got a couple of grandkids that had this. It was crazy. I have a couple of dear friends that they were sending their kids to Harvard for $50,000 a year. The kid never went to Harvard. They're going to get a degree from Harvard, but they were in a Zoom classes. Can you believe that? It's crazy. I wrote down there, how much will you cost each kid to send you to school? What have you set aside for retirement? What's your retirement plan? Some people, it's lottery tickets every week. Lottery tickets. Sometimes it's an older person in the family that might leave them some money. I wrote down here, do you have money set aside for emergencies? Car breaks down, kid gets sick, battery on the car fails. Do you have money set aside to pay 3 months expenses for an emergency? Or maybe your wife gets, or a spouse gets ill. Hey, here's a question. How's your credit? Can you get a loan? Can you get a loan? I want to tell you something. It got so bad. This is crazy. During, not COVID, But during the recession, that, you know, I have an American Express card that I've had since 1973. And this American, and I've never missed a payment, and I've never, you know, I never get crazy with it, blah, blah, blah. But there's no limit on American Express. I don't remember the year, but I got sent a letter. They would not give me more than $3,000 on my American Express card that had no limit. Isn't that interesting? So all of a sudden, you think you have some money to take care of some incidentals that might come up, and now I got hammered. The other thing too is, you know, I bought property to make sure there was money to pay for the children's school, and all of a sudden, property that was worth 500,000 is now worth 300,000, and I can't get a loan on it. You guys, you have to be prepared for this stuff. And some of you are sitting around, I don't know what you're doing. I wrote down here, let's see, credit. Remember, I wrote down here, I wrote down, this is life. You can stay at home and blame the economy. You can blame Congress. You can blame your broker. Don't blame me. You can blame the bad market. You can blame your spouse. You can blame bad luck, or you can take action. So what am I talking about taking action? If you're supposed to make 30 contacts a day, make 30 contacts a day. But I'm telling you, 30 contacts is not enough anymore. If you have to practice your scripts and dialogues, practice your scripts and dialogues. We have a half a dozen, maybe a dozen agents in the company right now that every single week record their listing presentation and send it to Robert and I. Okay, and some we watch and some we don't watch, and some we watch with the agents, et cetera, et cetera. But the point is, every time you do something, you're practicing. Some agents don't even show up for role play in the morning. Can you think about this? Biggest complaint we used to get is that my role play partner flakes on me. We fixed it. We fixed it. Come to role play at 8 o'clock in the morning, stay till 9 o'clock. We guarantee you have a role play partner every single day, 5 days a week. And yet, we only get 40, 50, 60, sometimes 70 people. Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Because you think you have options. Now, this is going to hit home for some of you. Let's talk about the options. One of your options is you have a rich relative that's going to leave you some money at some point. And some of you do, okay? And even if they don't have as much money as you think they have, what's going on in the stock market, what's going on in different places, the value of their money is disintegrating pretty fast. And people are living longer. People used to die at 65, 65 and a half years old. Now they're living into their 80s and 90s and well into their hundreds. Okay, well, I had an aunt that ran out of money. She was 106, and at 71 years old, she ran out of money. Some of you that have been around me know about this. And, you know, we as a family jumped in and helped take care of her and do what needed to be done. But she lived to 106. She used all her money by 71 years old. What are you going to do about it? She had family, but she was always embarrassed. She was always embarrassed, no matter what we did to make it less embarrassing. She was always embarrassed. Is that what you want? You're 106 years old? I don't think so. We have options. Rich relative. How about, I wrote down here, that big deal, the big deal that's for $2 or $3 million that's going to put you back on track or put you on track. Okay. A $3 million deal at 3% is $90,000. $90,000 is not to be sneezed at, but it is not life-changing money. You guys get me? It is not life-changing money. It won't even last a year in most neighborhoods. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Okay. You could win the lottery. And odds are not very good about that. Or you could go to work. You could do the things that we talk about on a regular basis. Ladies and gentlemen, today matters. We have the plan, we have the systems. The agents that we have are working the plan and they are succeeding at a very high level. Commit to doing what you're supposed to do. Now, I'm having this conversation in large part because it's the end of May. Next week is going to be June 1st, next Wednesday, I believe. It's going to be June 1st. We have all of June, and then we're at half a year. And that's going to come in a millisecond. In a millisecond. My birthday was May 12th. Was waiting all year for this birthday, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, the birthday comes. It's 2 weeks ago. The hell did my birthday go? Do you get what I'm saying? Time flies. Time flies. Get out there. Start today. Get going. If you don't have a plan, see us. We got plans. All right. But most of you have the plan. You're just not working the plan. And when you're working the plan, you're not working the plan intensely enough. Start today. If you're not following up on your leads, what are you doing? Call expireds, call for sale by owners. If you don't know what to say and how to say it, get out of the way. Okay. Get out of the way. I mean, maybe even get out of the business. If you're not willing to do it, if you haven't done what you're supposed to do up to now and you don't make changes, maybe that's what you should do. Get out of the way and let the rest of us do what we know how to do. I'm being a little tough right now, all right? But I'm not being tough for me. I have what I'm supposed to have. I bought everything I lined out for you, we have in our family, okay? We have all of the insurances that you can possibly need. The only thing is that every 3 or 4 years, when we think we've done such a brilliant job, we go back and look at it and say, wow, who was the idiot that put this plan together? And we need to buy more, do more, because we misanticipated something. But if you're doing nothing, be so careful. Now's the time. I'm telling you. So I don't have anything else. That took me 15 minutes more into Donna's time.
Thank you, Neil. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Neil.
I don't mean to be mean, but if you're not doing this stuff, you're looking to crash and burn.
Thank you.
Well,
You.
Thank you.